national nonprofit that supports affordable housing efforts throughout rural America. Since 1971, HAC has provided below-market financing for affordable housing and community development, technical assistance and training services, research and information products, and policy formulation to enable solutions for rural communities. Welcome to Green Building Case Studies. Today's webinar is the first in a series designed to share innovative solutions for affordable housing developers dealing with escalating prices and implementing additional regulations. As we acknowledge the benefits to the environment and occupants, implementing green building design costs can be challenging to a nonprofit organization's budget and its goal to produce affordably priced housing. This can be even more difficult in rural areas where materials and resources may not be readily available. Today's presenters will showcase projects that are successfully implementing green building practices and share their best practices for green building on a budget and constructing net zero energy homes for low-income buyers that can be replicated by affordable housing developers to reduce costs. Today's webinar is sponsored by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Bill Lazar is Executive Director of St. John's Housing Partnership and a licensed residential contractor. For 32 years, he's worked on affordable housing programs in Northeast Florida. He provides a variety of housing services, from home repairs and new construction of rental and home buyer units to credit counseling and foreclosure prevention. Additionally, the partnership owns and manages 65 scattered site rental properties and 2 USDA multifamily properties for seniors. He's been a board member with the St. John Builders Council for over 22 years and is a strong advocate for green building and high school and vocational trade programs. Most recently, he was recognized as Builder of the Year by the St. John's Builders Council. Welcoming our second speaker, Mike Marina. Mike earned a BA in Economics from the College of William and Mary and a master's degree in city planning from the Georgia Institute of Technology. He began his professional career as a research analyst for the Urban Land Institute in Washington, D.C. After spending 12 years in commercial real estate development, he founded the Alliance for Affordable Housing, a 501c3 corporation that developed master plan subdivisions, built new homes, and processed homebuyer loans throughout the greater Tampa Bay area. Mr. Marina brings 35 years of experience in all facets of affordable housing and was hired as Executive Director for Florida Home Partnership in April 2018.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Earl Pfeiffer. I'm a consultant for the Housing Assistance Council, and I've utilized their services for about 20 years when I was director at Florida Home Partnership. When I was given this assignment for green building, Mike has accelerated green building program after I retired from Florida Home Partnership, and Bill has been known around the state of Florida as Mr. Green Building for a long time. I'm excited to hear what they both have to say, so let's get started.
Bill, you're muted.
Is it okay now? Sorry. I'm Bill Lazar with the St. John's Housing Partnership. The Housing Partnership is a private nonprofit. We operate primarily as a construction company, but we're also a HUD certified counseling agency. And as I mentioned earlier, we've managed about 65 rental properties. All these things we kind of grew into as a demand in our community. We've been a weatherization agency for over 30 years, and that's where a lot of my experience with green building started. Because I really think when we're talking about building new homes and affordable homes that you've got to focus on energy conservation as your first step. Now, why am I? So when we started this, and I think it's really important, you've got to figure out who are the potential partners that are working with us. In my case, I'm both the builder and the executive director, so I get to make a lot of decisions. The big thing that was very important for our partnership was we agreed to take on the debt service in building this. That's a significant level of risk that either the builder or your agency takes on. And it made a big difference as we started creating our partnerships. It's really important to figure out what green building program you want. You may have a funding source that says you must use X or Y. In Florida, The best one that I've worked with is the Florida Green Building Coalition. It's something I've been in touch with for almost 20 years. They developed it for Florida, a hot, humid climate. So a lot of the measures you take to get your certification are directly related to what you need to build in Florida to make sense. But we've also got the U.S. Green Building Coalition lead, the Home Builders Association has a green building standard, and you may have other ones in other parts of the country. So your first task is really to look and see what your options are. When we started doing this, I think one of the big things that we tried to do was to evaluate who the partners were and what everybody needed out of the mix. So you've got to look at everybody. At some point, everybody probably wants to get their time paid for. Some may want bragging rights. When we first started, I partnered with a custom home builder before I got my license. He did it because he was a big advocate for affordable housing. He wasn't concerned about making money in it. He had a custom home building business. So when we took on the line of credit to do the financing for the project, there was very little risk for him involved. And he wanted to do it, and he grasped the whole idea of we're building something a little bit different. So that's a big part of these decisions, figuring out and really thinking who's going to take on different roles. Because as an agency, construction is a big cash flow issue. You've got to figure that out. We wanted to have a ready pipeline of buyers. We didn't want to build something and be sitting around wondering if it's going to sell or not. So our HUD certified counselors built that pipeline for us, working with people. And the rule of thumb I've always had in Florida is 9 out of 10 people who want to buy a home need help before they're going to get ready to do it. So there's a lot of work for a strong home buyer counseling program. Oh, come on. One of the things that I want to do, this, you can't read this pic very well, but it's one of the attachments with the presentation. Green Builder Magazine and Green Builder Media is one of the early places I went to get information about green building programs. This is a pyramid of ideas that help you move towards green building. So a lot of it is down at the lower end. It's the less expensive things to do. Everybody thinks green building and goes, oh, we're going to have solar and PV panels. Well, you've got a lot of work to do before you want to size the number of panels you need for a home. Simple things that don't cost anything are things like the color of paint on the exterior of the home or the color of your roof shingles. So you've always got to think about working upwards from the least expensive things, because when it comes to green building, a lot of what we're doing may not necessarily show up in the appraisal. And for a builder, that's really important, because if it doesn't show up in the appraisal, it's coming out of their pocket. Now, if you've got a down payment assistance program like we have here in Florida that says you can get $25,000 in down payment assistance if you have a green certified home, that makes those decisions a lot easier, because you know you've got funding to help you with those decisions. The Florida Green Building Coalition has a series of categories. It's a holistic look at the house. It's not just energy or not just green materials. One of the attachments to our presentation is an Excel spreadsheet that we use, and I encourage everybody to look at that when you have time, because it not only shows how we add up points, but it gives you little comments about each one of those items. It makes a big difference when you're looking at green building. You can get overwhelmed with all the different ways to do it. In affordable housing, I really think the biggest challenge is getting your energy conservation down. That's it's the best thing for the home buyer, because when you deal with a good energy score, a good HERS rating, you've improved the building envelope. You've done things that both have an impact in terms of improved indoor air quality, which these days with COVID, everybody is talking more and more about. But initially, it's all about keeping that utility bill down, and that's huge for anybody who's on limited income. The FGBC process is really pretty simple. We work with a rater who we hire to help us review it, and they go over the entire process with us before we get started. The whole idea simply being that we want to talk about what we're going to do and come up with a plan. Just like you have a list of your building materials, You want to talk about what is the energy efficiency of the windows, and your consultant can help you think about those things. In some cases, when we first started, I wasn't real enamored of buying green building materials like low VOC paint or something else, because my feeling was most of the painting was going on before the owners moved, before the home buyers moved in. But one of the painters who worked with me said, well, it was a better quality paint, and he used one coat of paint instead of two. So it made sense in several different ways for us. This is one of the homes we just finished recently. It's a little 2-bedroom, 2-bath that we built. And you can see our energy score there. We got a gold certificate on this. And we're not doing a lot of real fancy stuff. We had not gotten around to putting solar PV or anything else. We just made a tight building envelope. This is done, it's framed with zip panels. It's a metal roof. Putting a metal roof on cuts the heat load in the attic by almost 50%. That alone helps reduce your energy consumption when the ductwork is up in the attic. So you can see sort of the little categories. We don't score well in some things like some of the site work. There's certain things that you could do on the site that was just more onerous for us to do, so we didn't try and get those points. In green building, it's all about lining up the different points and putting it all together before you get started, and not overcommitting to, yeah, we're going to do this, this, and this, because at a certain point, certain measures do cost you more money than others. We did one of the first green certified homes in our community 15 years ago, and it started with an Energy Star certification. They were concrete block homes, so the building envelope was pretty tight already. It was pretty easy to do the low maintenance part of it. We looked at both, energy and water conservation. The HERS score, and I know the Assistance Council has a good webinar that was posted up on their list of resources recently that someone from ResNet did. I'd recommend you go back and listen to that if you're not familiar with the HERS score, because that's the first way someone actually evaluates your entire house. And I'm a big fan of, you get the right HERS rater to sit there and you play with it like it's a Game Boy. You sit there and say, how efficient do I want my windows? How much attic do I put in? And you say, how much is that insulation going to cost? Because you could say, I want to foam in the attic and I want to foam in all the walls. And you got to look at your cost of it, because you can change in that simulated evaluation of it. You can change the energy, and you can change the energy conservation. You can change the measures by just saying, I'm going to use a little bit less efficient window, or I'm only going to use blown insulation or bat insulation. And you can see how it changes. And sometimes the energy raters don't like that because they feel like you're gaming the system. But affordable housing is about creating a holistic product, and it's not about buying any particular product that makes someone happy. It's about giving somebody a home that's going to work properly. This is one of my favorite sites to go to. Corbett Lunsford is a BPI guru on energy conservation. He's got a lot of videos on his website about, if you're doing rehab, how you want to seal the voids in the attic. Where you've got, different places where you've got hot and cold air coming up from the conditioned space into a hot or cold attic. And there are a lot of just educational videos into it. His attachment here is about a 25-page PDF, but he walks you through the whole idea of things that you want to look for on rehabbing a home. We've started building affordable rental property in large part because we need it in our community and nobody else was doing it. And if we're going to build rentals, I want them to be as energy efficient as the homes that we build and sell. So this is a duplex that we did. It was an FGBC silver rating. Our HERS score was okay. It wasn't great, but it was a 57, and that's very laudable for what we're trying to do. And it was with simple measures. We, again, had zip panels, a metal roof. We foamed in the attic, and we had about a 14-SEER air conditioner for it. This is a list of some of the measures that we did, so you can see there's nothing overly fancy in any of that. We played around with those measures, we modeled it, and this is what we came up with to get our energy score. This is the next project that we're building. It's under construction now. We're anticipating that we'll get a HERS 66 rating and probably a silver rating from the Green Building Coalition. It's a 6-unit, 1-bedroom group of apartments, and we're going to work with a local nonprofit who's working with veterans who are at risk of being homeless. So my goal on this was to have utility bills as low as possible because we want those vets and anyone who rents from us to not be wasting money on a utility bill. Most rentals, unless it's an affordable housing program, the landlord doesn't care how inefficient your air conditioning system is. They just want to make sure you pay the rent. One thing that I like about our Florida Green Building Coalition's, the green scoring, is that you get points for innovative ideas. And when we did a subdivision about 15 years ago, we brought in both high school and college partners that helped us. In this case, we redesigned our retention pond using what they call low impact detention. The idea was to be able to store stormwater longer, allow it to clean the stormwater properly, and not take up as much space as before. We also brought out a high school masonry class, and we gave the students the opportunity. We told our mason that we wanted him out there on a Saturday, and a group of high school kids were going to work with him on building a home. We'd still pay him the same fee, but we wanted him to work with the kids. He looked at me like I was crazy at first, but by the end of the day, he was asking which kids were graduating and were they going to be interested in staying in the masonry division. I think it's really important to get young people involved in these programs. Green building is a great opportunity in affordable housing because usually we've got some kind of subsidy that encourages us to do this. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility than you might normally have. And, bringing high school or college age students, young people into this, we've got to build our industry. Mike and I have been around long enough. At some point, we want young people to take over, and it's a great way to get them involved. Some of these kids have stayed in the masonry program. Others have gone on to college and other things, but you got to keep, it's just like a farmer. You got to keep nurturing that field to find more. So these are just the attachments that I've got at the end of this. I would encourage you, download them, look at them at your leisure, but they'll give you an idea of some of the thoughts that we go through when we decide what it is that we're planning on doing. And I've got my information there. That's my cell phone. Anyone who's got questions is welcome to call, write, or give us a shout, and we'll see what we can do to help you. Thank you. No, I don't know how to get out.
Thanks, Bill. That was awesome.
Mike, do you want to take control?
I do not see the take control button.
Okay, just tell me to advance then.
Okay. All right, you can advance. Good afternoon. I'm Mike Marina, Executive Director of Florida Home.
Hang on, everyone. I'm not sure if we're seeing the slides. Are people seeing the slides? Yes.
Yeah, I am.
All right, great.
Okay. Florida Home Partnership is in Tampa, or the outskirts of Tampa, in Ruskin, Hillsborough County, Florida. It was founded in 1993, and under the leadership of our own Earl Pfeiffer, it became the preeminent and largest nonprofit home builder in the Tampa Bay area. I think on some years, probably even in the state. We've built closing in on about 1,100 homes now over the years, primarily using the USDA Mutual Self-Help Program, which is a wonderful program, but it is not for everybody and takes a long time, takes a lot of physical labor because they're doing a lot of sweat equity. But still, we've managed to do these days about 50 homes every year, which is enough to usually put us in the top 15 or so of builders in the Tampa Bay area until recently anyway. We basically are coming at it from this point of view. a production point of view. Every year, the affordable housing crisis worsens. I gave a speech last year and was talking about how I got into this, and I said, I've been working at something for 30 some years, and it's gotten markedly worse since I started working in it. So sometimes I wonder, it makes you think sometimes. I'm very excited to talk about the zero net energy homes that we've built. But more important, I think, is how it unfolded and how things developed. And this presentation we originally did for the Florida Housing Coalition. And I've decided it'd be very helpful to leave this presentation, but then tell you how things have changed and how we've adapted and adjusted to the changing circumstances. And circumstances have certainly changed, as you all know. I became executive director in 2018. When Earl left, I had a mandate from our board to do more. Things are just getting worse, but also to do more to get the attention of especially the Hillsborough County, our funder, because in a way we're a victim of our success. Even though we produce more homes, we build and sell more homes, all to low-income buyers, than everyone else in the county in nonprofit world combined, times 2 or 3 on some years. It's sort of, what have you done for lately? Oh, all you're doing is the same great job you've done. And it's really that, I'd like to smile and laugh, but it's really not funny to me. Well, all right, I am. But we made some changes to some plans, and we went over and did materials and how we do the actual self-help. But we decided we were looking for something more significant that would help our buyers in a significant way, but also restore some of the luster that we once had in the eyes of the funders. We don't really worry about competition from other builders because we tend to be way under that, and we have a huge waiting list, and it's always been that way. But we do compete for funding dollars, and these days there's some different priorities than single-family housing. So we thought it was important to try to do something to freshen up what we do rather than just do a great job and a lot of it. So we started to talk about what can we do with energy efficiency. You can move the slide forward. Stephanie, can you move the slide forward?
Another one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And one more. Okay. After a lot of research into this issue, we really looked hard at something called insulated concrete forms, ICF, to replace our concrete block walls. It's a proven technology. It's been around for a long, long time. And we thought it was something that was very much worth looking at. You can go to the next slide, please. Here is a diagram of really what ICF is. For you, those of you who are not familiar with it, the best way to describe it is that you build the walls of a home pretty much out of Lego blocks. You stack them exactly the same way, only they're styrofoam blocks with 2 inches of styrofoam on both sides with a 4-inch void between them. When those blocks are all stacked and all windows are blocked and everything, you brace the sides of that, and then you pour in concrete. And in our case, we don't even need rebar in them because we have helix steel shavings that obviate the need for rebar. And the result is you get a very, very strong and a continuous pour that's all unified and connected. You can go to the next slide. This is one of those pictures that is worth 1,000 words. This is a home in Mexico Beach, which is on the Florida Panhandle, and this was taken right after Hurricane Michael came, I think about 3 years ago. This home was constructed using ICF. Full disclosure, I believe that instead of 4 inches, they use 6-inch interior blocks, but it pretty much makes the point, and it's really helped us in the education process with our buyers and everybody. This just speaks for itself, I believe. Next slide, please. When you use ICF, you most often use it with sprayed on open cell foam insulation, which creates a super tight building envelope and also has the effect of bringing the attic temperature down close 85 to 90 degrees, which makes it conditioned or semi-conditioned space, I think, which means your ductwork is running through 85-degree space instead of 140-degree attic, which most attics in Florida are, or in the case of mine at home, about the heat of the surface of the sun. And it makes a huge difference in the amount, as Bill had alluded to, what you need to think about when you're doing solar panels. So the result of, next slide, please. The result of ICF and open cell is you get a strong, tight, and energy efficient building envelope. And these homes are classified as zero net energy ready, meaning you've insulated them, you've done all the window, you've done everything you can to make them as tight as and energy efficient as possible. And the only thing you can really do to upgrade them is to actually have them producing energy. And this was done with a very manageable and something we thought was worth cost increase. It wasn't that expensive to do this. And it really didn't, by the way, the ICF is fairly easy for the tradespeople to work with. There was really not much of a learning curve with that. So next slide, please. We made the decision to go with ICF and change everything we do to make it ICF. And we thought it was worthwhile. We didn't care about the extra cost. We didn't worry about the education process. We didn't ask anybody for permission because there was really no one to give it. We did it because we thought it was the right thing to do at the time. And that's something that I think that over the years that I've been with nonprofits, we often sometimes feel we have to clear it with the county or somebody's providing money. But what we've learned is they're looking for better ideas, and they're happy to listen to them and agree with them when you can put them forth. You can go to the next slide, please. So we went and started building everything with zero net energy ready with the ICF. As I said, we do about 45 or 50 a year. And our partners at Hillsborough County actually provided us with the opportunity to build more and go beyond what we've been doing. You can go to the next slide. We have been, several years ago, we built 4 homes using home funds from HUD provided by Hillsborough County. They were outside the USDA program, and they were all sold to low-income buyers. The county was very happy with the construction, as you can see. You'll see later. What I inherited from Earl was a tremendous operation, but the houses we do were just exceptional, and we've done nothing but upgrade them since then. But we started from a great base. Everything we do these days is 2-car garage, and most are 4 bedrooms. It was really a good thing that we were doing. So we were at these net zero energy homes. County wanted more of these of these Chodo homes, and they had funded 4 the year before. They funded 5 more the following year. At about the same time, Wells Fargo came out with a grant of up to $150,000 for innovative ideas in home construction. And I got with our construction people and said, how can we go from zero net energy ready to truly net zero? I didn't know if it could be done, but we looked at it and did the numbers as you have to do. And what we found was, because the homes were so tight and so energy efficient to start with, and with the open cell in the attic, we were able to put in the solar panels for $15,000 was the estimate we had, which turned out to be good. And while we were at it, we said, let's do galvanized metal roofs, which are a tremendous boon in several ways that I'll get to later. But we found we could upgrade from a shingle roof to pretty much a lifetime, or certainly a lifetime of the mortgage, metal roof for about $6,000. Now, these are prices before COVID. Everything's changed, but relatively speaking, it's going to be the same. And so we had $15,000 for the solar panels, $6,000 for the metal roofs, which weren't required to be net zero energy, but it was a just better all around solution. So that was $21,000. We had money from Hillsborough County for 5 homes. We asked for $105,000. And I knew it would be something that would be appealing to Wells Fargo, but I was surprised when I didn't hear anything from them for a while. And when I finally did get an email, I was excited and expecting to see they had approved the grant. They didn't. But what they did do is to say, please reapply and ask for the full $150,000, because you should. So we decided we would fund the other 2 homes ourselves and build 7 zero net energy homes. And that's what we did. You can go to the next slide. This is that one. Yes. This is one of the homes we built back then. This happens to be a 3-bedroom. All of the buyers are going to be low or very low income, or are minimal electric bills over the lifetime of the home. They could go to 0 when battery technology advances, and they'll have no roof worries over the life of the home, which is a very, very significant thing. You can go to the next slide now. Here's just a quick schematic of what we have: solar panels, metal roof, spray foam insulation, and low E windows. But really the most memorable thing or noticeable thing about this slide, I believe, is that the USF College of School of Architecture and Community Design, which is sort of a research arm of their architectural school, prepared this. And we were able, again, with Wells Fargo's help, to get them a small grant. They'd been helping anyway, but we were able to compensate them some. But they did a lot of good work for us, a lot of presentation material like this. But beyond what they did, they provided for us with work, we found that having a research arm of a research university involved in this made a lot of our funding sources very happy. They like to rub elbows. They like to feel the warmth of basking in the glow of that sort of thing. And if it sounds like I'm a little of a carnival barker, I have to be. You have to be a salesman in this and all the time. So that was sort of a win-win situation for everybody to involve the School of Architecture. You can go to the next slide. Here's just a quick thing about the three pillars of this are the metal roofs, which are tremendously helpful, the solar panels, and the spray foam insulation. Next slide, please. Here's another one of our homes. This one may be a 3-bedroom also, but we have 4 bedrooms, slightly more. The $186,000. That was before we have state down payment assistance and county down payment assistance available. So these were very, very affordable. On top of that, for the low and very low income buyers, and we're very proud of the design of these homes. This is one of the designs Earl left for us. We maybe raised the roof pitch a little tiny bit, but basically, this is the kind of things that we build. And frankly, they're every bit as pretty and well, I think, better built than homes that you can find in the starter range from the big builders. Next slide, please. Here's just a few more of the homes. The one on the upper right is called the Monterey, and that's about 1,600 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 2 bath, and that has, for years, well before my time here, has been our biggest seller, and people love that home. Next slide, please. This is a picture of taken at an event we had called a Net Zero Energy Showcase that we had on February 25th, 2020. That's a check presentation. I don't think that's the real check that they gave us, but a ceremony. There's 4 county commissioners there. Each one of the county commissioners spoke at some length at this. Every one of them wanted to get on TV. We had, I think, at least 4 television stations there. We had close to 200 people in attendance. It was a big, big deal. And it just shows the power of doing something a little different. But that I'll have more about that later. So we can go on to the next slide. The lessons we learned back then, when this was originally done almost a year ago, they haven't changed, and they are, from my point of view, Bill's more technical and has a different business model. It's a different kind of business, but we always have to be, our clients are our number one and our number one concern, and always will be. And that has never changed and never will change. But we also we can't have and serve for these clients unless we always keep in mind that we are not working in a vacuum. So we're always looking for ways to add value. You can't be satisfied. Don't be afraid to try new products and new things. You can always change back, which actually we've done, as you'll see, but be bold and move the needle. And if there's one thing that I really learned from this, I suspected this and had seen it in others, but never quite other things I've done, but never quite as much as with this, is to aim high, because the higher you aim, the more support, the more people want to be a part of it. I really believe that there's banks, there's government agencies, there's all kinds of folks out there who are hungry and have money to bring to the table to be involved with something that is better. And again, that's a little bit of the salesman, but it's true. People can't get excited about the same old thing. And we don't have the luxury of sitting around and saying, well, this is what we do and it's really good, because times change. You have to be aware of what's happening around you, respond, adapt, and innovate. That leads me to the next slide, please, which is lesson learned part 2. Just real briefly, all the homes are occupied now. They have turned out to be truly net zero. The folks in these homes have consistently gotten bills from Tampa Electric of, I think, $15.84, which is the base charge you have for connecting to the grid. And they make you connect to the grid. Even if you had a battery, they won't let you, you still have to connect to the grid. ICF is not a panacea. It can make the home so tight that moisture and mildew can be an issue. It's fairly easy to control with working with your air conditioner, but it's really just some complication that we don't need. And we've also, kind of learned the lesson. Bill could have told me this had I asked him a long time ago, that the real heat loss and what's important is the attic insulation. The wall insulation is fairly easy to get to where you need to be zero net energy ready. And so we, for a number of reasons, just having mostly to do with complications, don't use ICF right now. We may eventually find a use for it, but right now we're not using it. So we tried something, it worked, it served a purpose, but now we're not sticking with it just because, momentum is carrying us in that direction. And that's kind of the first part of the lessons. Now I'll go back to that lovely meeting we had on February 25th, 2020. For the next week, my phone was ringing off the hook. I'm serious about this, 3 vice presidents or senior vice presidents of banks saying, we want to make the trip to Ruskin. And if you've ever been to Ruskin, it's not an easy trek, but they wanted to meet with me. We had the community foundation interested. They were just, everybody was calling. They'd seen it on TV. They said, this is wonderful. How do we get involved with this? And that was fun for about 4 or 5 days until COVID hit. And March, beginning of March is when it happened. Those meetings that I set up with the bank folks became Zoom meetings or phone calls. And then gradually everybody just got distracted into something else. So, you all have your own COVID horror stories, and unfortunately we're all still living it. But so there was that. And a year and a half later, where are we? Lot prices have been rising steadily for a couple years now. And as we are now looking at, 60 to 100% increase in the price of lots in the last 2 years, which is mitigated by the fact that you really can't find them. So you don't have to pay those prices because there's none to buy. There's so much competition from the big builders. At the same time, construction costs have risen 30, 40%. We are dealing with our shortages on the construction perm loans with our USDA buyers of as much as $40,000 on a bunch of them, and we're trying to find ways to do that. So we've got land and materials just skyrocketing in prices. So what we've had to do is to say, we always want to do a great product, but while all of these things have been happening, the affordable housing crisis, which means essentially the gap between these folks with income at one level and the cost of an affordable home, that their incomes, COVID has not helped people at the lower end of the income strata, and the limits are still the same, but their incomes, that's hurt them, while at the same pricing has just gone crazy. And at the same time, there's incredible demand. We have basically a 2-week supply of homes on the market, new or used. And so this affordable housing crisis is just gone, it's incredible. So we've had to shift our focus. We were chugging along doing things and say, how can we make the product that we do better? And we still want to make it better, but we've had to really shift our emphasis to production. That's where we have to be. We have to build more. We have to just continually find ways to build more. So we have 2 projects in the works right now. They're relatively small, totaling about 60 homes. But what we're going to do are duplex / villa type units because we just can't afford the land cost for a single family detached. USDA, which these are self-help homes and people are all over it. To mine, I don't know if they've done this before, but we've gotten their permission to actually build attached homes. And I'm sure Earl that was his question, but they've approved it. And the county is very happy because single family detached is not what they're really looking to do. And they're very happy that we're doing higher density homes and more of them. And community groups and our waiting list are very happy because we're going to be able to help even very low income buyers below 50% we've always been able to do that, but we think we're going to be able to do that on a wider scale. So folks and there's an area called Waimama, which has particular problems with income, and we're going to be able to keep a lot of those folks in that neighborhood. And we're building next to a tax credit project where some of the the renters have been there for 20 years renting. And what we're hoping to do, and we've already been working with the managers there, is to convert some of them to home ownership, and that would be a great thing. So that's what we're doing. But then getting back to how do we help our clients? Number one, the best way we can help them is provide them with an opportunity to buy a home. So we're doing that. But at the same time, we have a plan that we're working on we're planning on putting metal roofs and on these homes, along with the spray foam insulation. And because the metal roofs will ensure that these low-income people will never have to worry about, in 12 years or 15 years, how am I going to afford a $25,000 roof? How are you going to do that? In addition, so they can go the lifetime of their mortgage and never have to worry about that. It will help keep their energy costs low, but in addition, society benefits by this because you don't have to manufacture the asphalt shingles. You don't have to dispose of them and build new ones, rinse and repeat maybe 3 roofs over the time that a metal roof would go. And that, I think, is our hook. And what we were talking, I'm approaching this more from how do we get the money to do the things we do? Government has more money. It's slow coming out, but with these rising prices, it's everything government can do to just provide down payment assistance that's needed to do this. So I'm going to put on my, carnival hat and go knock on doors and say, we're doing this. We're the little engine that could. We're doing something that you can't be done. The cheapest you can buy a single family home, and townhouses aren't far behind, in Hillsborough County right now is $300,000. That is the absolute rock bottom, and you can't really, there's a line for those. And we're going to be offering these homes for actually have an opportunity, it looks like, for folks, once they get all their subsidy, if they can figure out how to borrow $115,000, they're going to be able to buy a home. It's an attached home, but it's a home. And it'll be 3 bedrooms, 2 baths with the garage and everything. And what we're hoping is that we can create enough interest and excitement in someone in the private sector, with banks, with somebody, that they'll say, we want to do that, because by putting the metal roofs on, you're providing something that's going to last and be a benefit to these homeowners and the community for many, many years to come. And while we're at it, maybe we can get somebody to underwrite at least part of the cost of doing solar panels for these, so these can be net zero energy ready also. So that's really where we're coming from. It's a little different approach than Bill's, but that's what we're trying to do, is help as many of our clients, because we have a waiting list that just keeps growing and growing, and it's just heartbreaking to see that list grow, and yet our ability to serve them, it's just harder and harder all the time. So that's our approach, and we're using energy efficiency and things as sort of it's a great thing in and of itself, but we're using it, trying to use it as a tool to get more investment and input from funding sources where we don't usually get them. That's my presentation.
Thank you, Mike and Bill. Do we have any questions for the audience? I noticed one question had come in about appraisers that Bill had answered. Do you want to just explore that a little bit more, Bill?
Yeah, well, I think it's one of the really critical things, and Mike's, touched on it also. The biggest part of this, when we've all started doing green building 10 or 15 years ago, was getting a HERS rating and an Energy Star rating on your home, because the Energy Star rating said my home is worth $6,500 more with the features we had done than a comparable home without it. but you had to find a bank who offered energy efficient mortgages, and you had to find someone at the bank who knew how to do the mortgage. Otherwise, they all looked at us like we were crazy. The same thing with green building is we have to find partners, and sometimes our lending partners aren't very astute about the need for green building. Mike's exactly right that we're going to have to find programs that offer a lot more down payment assistance to help people. And I think the way you do it is you build a better product and then ask for support and subsidy. Down in the Keys right now, if you want a teacher to buy a house, she can get $100,000 in down payment assistance. That's because of what it costs to try and keep somebody in a home down there. When we build a green certified home, our buyers are happy. They're not buying it from us for that reason. They're buying it for the price point. They're thrilled that they get a better quality home than most of the local builders are doing. But I rarely run into an appraiser who can give us, that credit in the appraisal. I've mostly built concrete block homes in the past. We had appraisals didn't even give us credit for block over stick frame. So you've really got to think about that. But for me, it starts with looking for those low cost measures that don't make sense, that don't cost you a whole lot. Light colored shingles or a metal roof is a relatively cheap way, has a big impact on your energy score. Having the right HVAC contractor is huge because not every HVAC contractor properly sizes your air conditioner. And if you have an improperly sized air conditioning system, it won't last as long. So then you're, like Mike said, 15 years down the road, you're trying to borrow $10,000 to heat or cool your home. They ought to last 20 years. If they cycle and are sized properly, they will. So all of that is part of the green building package. You give somebody something that is designed to be low maintenance over time. And we've all got to just look at what our choices are in each home that we build.
I'd like, excuse me, could I add, just jump in here? I wanted to reiterate or mention that we have been for years doing Energy Star and working with the green building, the Florida Green Building Standards. And Bill's making a point that I want to emphasize, which is it's the little things. The little things do add up. And then when you do those things, appraisers, we haven't had a lot of issues with appraisers yet, but we will. And it's an education process, and a lot of it is going to the lenders who will say all this stuff, but they dissociate what they say over here with the actions and what they with their underwriting standards and all of that stuff. So holding their feet to the fire to be consistent with their words, with their actions is, I think, a really important part of this, and educating as much as we can. It's very slow, but we have to do it.
I'll add something just because I think we all are looking at unprecedented times. Yeah, COVID's part of that, but we also have an administration that is planning on pouring a buttload of housing money out. And we've got an opportunity to do it, but we need to figure out how, and we need to define good standards so that people really do get a good bang for their buck. I think affordable housing is a three-way partnership. You got to have government with their regulations, and they got to give some. We got builders who need volumes and better competitive rates on financing so they can build. And we need banks that'll open up their interest rates a little bit. You'd be amazed how much less expensive a $200,000 house is if you shave 1 point off the interest rate. If we're all serious about it, everybody needs to pitch in. And I think it's really important when Mike and I talk about green building or Energy Star, we're talking about certified. He and I can't certify it. We hire a third-party professional who comes in and tells the bank, these guys did what it is. It's not what I said at the beginning. It's they confirmed through the entire building process that Bill stayed on track and did what he did. It's not talking about, oh, I blew insulation and I got a metal roof. No, I have a holistic package that has been certified. That's why there's a value to it, because you've got a third-party person that's confirming you're not doing smoke and mirrors.
We want to thank everyone for joining today's webinar, and we're going to stick around and answer some more questions, but we want to be considerate of your time because our hour is up. But please, if you have the time, hang around. And don't forget that there will be an evaluation form sent out that we would really appreciate you filling that out, and it helps us bring our relevant information to you in the future. So thanks for joining. And Mike, there was another question to you about your duplex. Are you using a zero lot line subdivision, or is it a kind of a condominium configuration?
We are still kind of working that out, but what we're hoping to do and what our instruction to the architect are to have, even though the buildings are connected, to have a demising wall where there's a clear separation, and so one roof is separate from the other, because we don't want any sort of cross any utility or maintenance agreements between even connected people. We've talked to lawyers and architects, and we think we can do that. And so that's what we're trying to do.
There was another question, Mike, to you about, you had mentioned that there were other ways to get the same level of wall insulation as the ICFs. So could you talk about those other ways?
Basically, Bill can answer this question better than I. You don't need, I think with the ICF, it's an R33 or something like that. What do you need to, basically just making sure it's properly insulated and all, making sure that the windows are properly not just caulked, but that there's not any penetrations for air to get through. How do you do that, Bill, to get to the standards you want?
I think one of the big things, and realize everybody who's listening, we're in Florida, hot, humid climates. Don't listen to me if you're in Denver, because I don't know what it takes to build a house in a cold climate. I think it's a very different animal. The best part about energy conservation, whether you're using a HERS, straight, or anything else, is you're thinking about the entire house. You're thinking about the house as a system. So it's not necessarily how much insulation do I put in the wall or how much do I put in the attic, but your energy rater will help you model that. And sometimes you've got to argue with the energy rater because they're kind of geeks and they want to build a really nice Cadillac and I want to build a good running Volkswagen. So you don't focus necessarily on how much insulation in the wall, but you model this in the energy gauge software and you make the energy rater talk with you about, okay, if I upgrade the windows, and your builder's got to be there and go, okay, well, if you upgrade the windows, it's going to cost you $1,200 more. Okay, well, how does that impact my energy score? If I don't want to upgrade the windows and I want to upgrade the insulation, maybe I'm going to go from blown cellulose to foam. What's the cost difference? And does it have a big impact? Because if the cost difference isn't much, and you have a bigger impact, then you go with the better one. If there's a big cost difference and a low change in your energy score, why spend more money just to make something look fancier or neater? So it's not a simple this material or that. You really want to get a good energy rater who will help you walk through with your architect what you're designing and the materials you're using. And I can tell you, my biggest frustration is I run into mechanical engineers all the time who have no idea what a HERS rating is. So you've got to do your research and ask around and say, this is what I'm doing. And the big thing about energy conservation, it's a lot harder to do it on a small footprint. We're 1,300 square feet. Mike said he's 12 to 1,500 square feet. That's still a small home compared to most of what's getting built. And the smaller the house, the harder it is to really get your energy score down because you just don't have that much space you're conditioning. So that's where that energy rater really comes in as a critical part in your design, helping you figure out. You want a group hug. You want the architect, the builder, and the rater all sitting down together and helping you. If anyone's being sort of a sourpuss and they don't want to talk about it, then find somebody else. Because it's that partnership that gets you a good product. Mike and Earl and I probably learned this, by beating our heads against a wall over the last 10 or 15 years, trying to find the right partners. But that's what makes it work.
Well said.
Does anyone else have any questions for these great guys?
Do y'all know how super cool you are? I mean, what a great presentation, you guys. This was super helpful and great information from the front lines. I really appreciate it so much.
I think
Did you just refer to me as super cool? I've got to tell my kids.
I can see it, and I just heard it.
One thing that I've noticed, and Mike and I talk to a lot of people around Florida, a really critical thing that we all have to take into account, especially when you're working with nonprofits. Someone was listening to this webinar and they heard it and it sounds really good. And they go back to their boss who may be running a nonprofit or a business that has half a dozen other programs and don't get construction and energy and everything else. It's sometimes a hard sell. And, rely on people like us and look at stuff, whether it's some of the webinars that the Housing Assistance Council have. I was just scrolling through them the other day, are really helpful. There's all sorts of good information. That Green Builder Media has good anecdotal stories you can print off and give to somebody. But sometimes you're that lone wolf in the agency that really wants to do this. I get to make the decisions because I'm the boss. I get to take on the debt if I think we can handle it. Those things, it's easier for me than when you're going to a board and saying, oh, well, would y'all mind doing something that's. So just, use us and look at these things. But I think we have unprecedented opportunities in the middle of all this COVID crap, and Florida is a perfect example of that mess. But there's tremendous opportunities over the next 2 or 3 years. And I think we really need to look at, Mike's example is you raise the bar and people will come to you because they want a better product. And the better product generally is going to be less expensive to maintain over time. I hate the thought of someone buying a house and 5 years later, they're applying to a city rehab program for home repairs. But if you don't pay attention to what someone's buying, that's exactly what happens.
I wanted to take a minute to thank you two guys for the presentation. It was well done, beat my expectations, so thank you very much. And Mike, I wanted to just key on something that I think I heard you talk about, which is the competitive advantage of green building. Yeah. Probably 10, 12 years ago, I was at a hack conference where they brought all of the executive directors into one room and had a session tailored towards us exactly. And the one thing that stood out in my mind, besides all the energy saving and all the green reasons to be behind green building, was that it did give you a competitive advantage. And I remember back when I was in Tampa, even the for-profit builders in the lower end of the range weren't building Energy Star, they weren't building green. So we did have a competitive advantage. And I think that's really important for practitioners trying to justify they're doing it, because there is an additional cost. You mentioned $20,000 in panels and a metal roof. That's without the spray foam insulation and all that. So it's definitely a higher investment. But I see the competitive advantage is really something that a nonprofit can hang on to. That with your lenders, with the community, with the funding partners, and with energy conservative clients. Do you guys concur that it from that particular view that you are advantaged over other builders who don't offer green and other nonprofits?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Especially if you're looking for down payment assistance to help people. We're all struggling with these prices right now. They've got to boost the down payment assistance to get people in, and making the argument, I got a better model, I got a better product, is going to win every time.
And you know, the example of the teachers in Key West getting $100,000, if it comes out in well, there aren't newspapers anymore, but but if it becomes widely known that some poor teacher took that $100,000 and purchased a house, and 2 years later the roof was leaking, you know, that it was substandard in some way, or even kind of the appearance of it, it's not going to last, and it's going to hurt, as we've seen over the years when even sometimes nonprofits do things that are less than optimal, and they mean well. Sometimes they don't mean well, but it really pushing that and to do the best we can is really the way to go with all of this, and keep pushing that, because they feel comfortable. There's so much money out there. It hasn't really, I mean, even before the COVID money or the whatever infrastructure money may or may not be available, but they're in Hillsborough County, they're talking about all kinds of money that's actually been dedicated. It's just not reaching us yet. But when it's there, the money will be there, but you need to have the right product. And don't be, you know, I'm whining about, oh, where do we find $6,000 to upgrade these roofs? Well, that's going to be nothing. You know, ask for it when this money starts coming, but do the right thing, because and I would also say, just as something to keep in mind as a phrase, and it's meaningful, is not just the cost of buying, but the cost of owning, the long-term cost, which is kind of what you guys are getting at, which is you want it to be not just the energy bill to be low, but to have the roof last, to have the windows, you know, to have everything work, the air conditioner, to use the best stuff with the best folks installing it, so we can truly keep the cost of maintenance and ownership down as long as we can. Because a low mortgage is a wonderful thing, but if maintenance costs are too high, it kind of defeats the purpose.
Well, I think we can wrap this up. Earl, do you have anything else to add?
No, I don't. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for attending, and thank Mike and Bill for the preparation and the time they put into this. It was very well delivered, and I'm excited to see what a success it was. Thanks, guys, and thank you everyone for attending.
Thank you for the opportunity. You guys take care.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Goodbye.